If you've been waking up at 3 a.m. for no reason, same time, almost every night, your doctor probably shrugged and called it normal. It's not random. There's a real mechanism behind it, and almost nobody explains it properly. Stick around, because there's one specific sign in this that actually matters, and it's not the waking up itself. Nobody sits you down at 50 and explains this properly. Your sleep doesn't just get a little lighter as you age, it gets rebuilt from the inside. The deep stage, the part that actually repairs your body overnight, starts shrinking. Not a little. In some people, by more than half compared to their 30s. You're not imagining it. You're not just getting old. Something specific is changing in your brain every single night. And here's exactly how we know that's real. Not a guess, not a feeling. This isn't a wellness blog's idea of sleep advice. It's what sleep labs actually measure. The same data sleep doctors and hospital sleep clinics use to diagnose real issues. Not the put your phone away an hour before bed tier of advice you've heard 100 times. Here's what actually happens to sleep in seniors. And it starts earlier than most people realize. By your 60s, you might be getting a fraction of the deep sleep you got at 25. And here's the part people get wrong. It's not that your body needs less of it now. Deep sleep is when your brain physically clears out waste proteins tied to cognitive decline. It's when tissue repairs, hormones reset. Losing it isn't cosmetic, it's structural. So why does this actually happen? The answer isn't what you'd expect. Your brain runs on an internal clock that controls when deep sleep kicks in, and that clock's signal weakens with age. Not gone, just weaker. Like a radio station losing strength the further you drive from the tower. That's also exactly why naps or catching up on weekends don't actually fix it. You can't stack extra hours on top of a weaker signal and expect the same result. But the sleep changing isn't actually the dangerous part. Something else is. Here's the number worth paying attention to. Waking at almost the same time every night isn't random either. Sleep runs in cycles, roughly 90 minutes long, and the lightest point between each cycle is exactly when you're most likely to surface, even if just for a second. Most people never remember it happening. If that's you, it's not automatically a problem. Here's exactly where it stops being nothing. Waking up and not falling back asleep within 20 minutes, more than 3 nights a week, for over a month straight. That specific pattern, not the waking itself, is the actual line between normal aging and clinical insomnia. So track it. Actually count the nights over the next 2 weeks. Don't just estimate. That number is what tells you whether this is worth a real conversation with a doctor. There's a bigger reason this matters more now than it would have at 30. And most doctors skip it entirely. Poor sleep is one of the most overlooked threats to healthy aging and brain health, linked to measurably higher risk of the exact things people fear most about aging. Cognitive decline among them. This isn't scare tactics. It's why sleep researchers increasingly treat sleep quality in older adults the same way doctors treat blood pressure. A real vital sign, not a lifestyle preference. Here's what's actually happening in your brain while you sleep, and it's not just resting. During deep sleep specifically, your brain runs a literal cleanup process, clearing out a protein called beta amyloid, the same one at the center of Alzheimer's research. When deep sleep is chronically cut short, that cleanup happens less completely, night after night, compounding for years, quietly, before anyone notices. Which is exactly why I'll just push through on less sleep is the wrong instinct here. A rough night at 30 costs you a groggy morning. Years of it at 65 is an entirely different category of problem. There's actually a way to help that same cleanup process during the day too, and most people are doing it exactly backwards. Napping in older adults turns out to be far more specific than rest when tired. Research tracking cognitive outcomes found something close to an inverted curve. Short naps under 30 minutes were linked to a meaningfully reduced risk of cognitive decline over several years, but naps stretching past 90 minutes were linked to worse cognitive performance, not better. One theory researchers point to: needing unusually long naps may itself be a sign that nighttime sleep already isn't doing its job. The long nap isn't fixing the problem, it's revealing one. And timing turned out to matter just as much as length. Sleep researchers at Johns Hopkins point to early afternoon, roughly 1 to 4 p.m., as the window that works with your body's natural rhythm rather than against it. Separately, one large study found something specifically worth noting. Adults who napped mostly in the morning showed higher rates of Alzheimer's risk markers, while consistent early afternoon napping was linked to less of that same pathology. So the actual guidance isn't avoid napping. It's short and it's timed, under 30 minutes, in the early afternoon, not the morning, and not right before bed. It's something that gets missed constantly, and it could genuinely matter more than anything we've covered so far. This is one of the most common sleep disorders in seniors, and most doctors miss it entirely. Research published in the journal Sleep found that about 1 in 3 adults over 70 already had sleep apnea in 2020, and that number is projected to climb past half the population by 2050. The reason it goes undiagnosed so often isn't that the signs are quiet, it's that they look exactly like normal aging. And here's exactly why it happens more as you get older. As you get older, fat tissue gradually replaces muscle tissue in the throat and neck. That makes the airway more prone to collapsing during sleep. Not because anything's wrong with you, just because that's what tissue does over decades. And this isn't a minor issue to shrug off. Research shows older adults with untreated sleep apnea are more than twice as likely to die prematurely compared to those without it. Up to half of everyone with high blood pressure also has undiagnosed sleep apnea sitting underneath it. So what should you actually be watching for? This part matters most. Loud snoring that's changed pattern, especially if it stops and starts, or if a partner notices you gasping. Morning headaches that have become regular instead of occasional. Waking up with a dry mouth most days. And this part matters. If snoring has actually gotten quieter with age, while everything else on this list is present, that's not necessarily good news. Snoring can lessen with age, even as the underlying apnea gets worse. If 2 or more of those sound familiar, that's a conversation for a doctor, not a lifestyle tweak. And there's a second thing working against that same airway every night. Something almost nobody connects to it. Sleep position matters here more than most people realize, and it connects directly to the airway problem we just covered. Lying flat on your back lets gravity pull the tongue and soft tissue backward, narrowing the airway further, which is exactly why apnea and snoring both tend to get worse, specifically in that position. This isn't a minor overlap either. Research puts the crossover between sleep apnea and acid reflux at well over half. Somewhere between 58 and 62% of people with one condition also have the other, sitting underneath it, often undiagnosed. And here's exactly which side actually matters, because it's not interchangeable. Sleeping on the left side keeps stomach acid lower than the esophagus, using gravity in your favor. Sleeping on the right side does the opposite. It can actually worsen acid exposure, even with your head elevated. Elevating the head of the bed 6 to 8 inches adds a further layer of protection. but the elevation only works properly paired with the correct side. So if you've been randomly picking a side out of habit, this is one of the rare cases where the specific side genuinely matters. Left elevated addresses both problems in this section at once. Now here's one that's going to surprise you, because it runs backwards from everything you've been told. You've heard it everywhere. Avoid screens before bed. Blue light wrecks your sleep. That advice was built for younger people. And here's what almost nobody tells you. It may matter far less for you specifically than you've been led to believe. As your eyes age, the lens inside them gradually yellows. That yellowing physically filters out short wavelength light, the blue end of the spectrum, before it even reaches your retina. By your 80s, the amount of that light actually getting through can drop by more than 70% compared to childhood. Here's the twist though, and it's the part that actually matters. That same reduced blue light sensitivity is believed to weaken something else entirely: your circadian clock's ability to reset properly using daytime light. Your internal clock relies on a strong light signal each morning to stay on schedule, and if less of that signal is getting through, the clock itself can drift and weaken over time. So the fix isn't obsessing over screens at night. Recent research on older adults found that exposure to brighter, blue-enriched light during the day, not avoiding it at night, measurably improved rest activity patterns. So here's the actual lever, and it's simpler than anything you've tried. The actual lever isn't less light in the evening, it's more real light in the morning. 15 to 20 minutes of genuinely bright light. Ideally outdoors, within an hour of waking. That single habit does more for a weakening circadian signal than any screen time rule ever will. There's one more piece almost nobody brings up, and it's sitting in most people's medicine cabinet right now. Older adults are far more likely to be on daily medication than any other age group, often several at once. Beta blockers, prescribed constantly for blood pressure and heart conditions, are known to suppress your body's own melatonin production. Some are specifically linked to vivid nightmares and fragmented sleep. Diuretics, also common for blood pressure and heart failure, do something more obvious. They simply mean more trips to the bathroom overnight. If you're waking 2 or 3 times a night specifically to urinate, that's very possibly the timing of a pill. And this is the question almost nobody thinks to ask their doctor. None of this means stop taking anything. These medications exist for genuinely important reasons, and stopping abruptly can be dangerous. What it means is this: a full medication review, specifically asking could any of these be affecting my sleep and is timing adjustable, is a conversation almost nobody proactively starts. Sometimes, moving a diuretic to the morning instead of the evening is the entire fix. And there's one more substance doing something similar, hiding in plain sight, something most people don't even think of as a sleep aid or a sleep disruptor. Evening drink. Up to 3 in 10 adults use alcohol specifically to help them fall asleep. And it's not entirely wrong. Alcohol does shorten how long it takes to actually fall asleep, but that's where the benefit ends completely. Here's the mechanism. Alcohol is biphasic. In the first half of the night, it sedates you. In the second half, as your body metabolizes it, a rebound effect kicks in. Your nervous system becomes more active, sleep fragments, and REM sleep gets suppressed. And here's the part that changes specifically as you get older. Research shows older adults experience an amplified version of that rebound effect, tied to slower metabolism, changing sleep architecture, and tying right back to what we just covered, more nighttime bathroom trips. It also relaxes the same airway muscles we talked about with sleep apnea, which is exactly why snoring reliably gets worse on nights with alcohol. And one persistent myth worth killing here: your liver processes alcohol at a fixed rate no matter what. Sleep doesn't speed that up. Feeling like you've slept it off by morning doesn't mean it's actually gone. And drinking within 3 to 4 hours of bed is where nearly all of this damage happens. And here's the part that should genuinely concern you. The thing a lot of people reach for specifically to fix everything we've just covered: Tylenol PM, Zizicol, Advil PM, Unison, Simply Sleep, nearly all of them share the same active ingredient, anti-diphenhydramine, the same drug in Benadryl. It works as a sleep aid because it's an antihistamine strong enough to sedate you. But it's also something else, an anticholinergic, meaning it blocks a brain chemical called acetylcholine, one directly involved in memory and attention. Multiple long-term studies have linked regular, sustained use of anticholinergic drugs to a meaningfully higher risk of dementia in older adults. And diphenhydramine specifically lingers far longer in an aging body, sometimes up to 18 hours. The American Geriatric Society now explicitly lists it as a medication older adults should avoid. This isn't about a single occasional dose for allergies. It's specifically the nightly habit, reaching for the same box every evening because everything else in this video already has you exhausted. So strip away everything that doesn't matter. Here's what's actually left. Not melatonin as a first move. Not another sleep hygiene checklist. Research keeps pointing to one thing, with the biggest measurable effect: a consistent wake time every single day, no matter when you actually fell asleep, combined with real morning light within the first hour. Pick a time. Get outside soon after. Hold both, weekends included, for 3 weeks before deciding whether it's working. Notice what actually connects everything in this video. The apnea you can't hear anymore. The airway working against itself in the wrong sleep position. The nap that's helping or quietly hurting depending on when you take it. The blue light warning aimed at the wrong end of the day. The pill, the drink, and the very sleep aid in your medicine cabinet, all quietly working against you after midnight. Every single one of these is your body sending a signal nobody ever taught you to read. Not weakness, not just aging, a signal. And tonight is the first time you've actually been shown what it's saying. Count your nights this week. If anything in the apnea list sounded familiar, bring the specifics to your doctor, not just the feeling that something's off. And if sleep is quietly working against you, there's a good chance something else is too. Next time, we're breaking down the muscle loss after 50 that's more dangerous than almost anyone realizes, and the one number that predicts it years in advance. Subscribe now so you don't miss it.